All right, so the very first one to get you off on a nice easy start with a little multiple choice matching questions. And so you just have to show here that you have a basic understanding of how parabolas work. Okay? So this goes all the way back to the very first thing that we talked about when we were looking at the graph of parabolas. So if you look at this one right here, the very first one, there are two things that you should be able to tell me about the graph of that parabola by looking at the equation. What is it? Yes?
Are we talking about number one?
Number one, yeah.
It's going to be...
Okay, first of all, it's going to open down. Okay? And how did you know that, Reed? Because there's a negative in front of the x squared number, so we know it opens down. Nolan?
Vertex is on 0, 2.
Right, and this 2 right here means crosses y-axis at 2. Okay? So, this is a multiple choice one. Find me a parabola, A, B, or C, or D, that opens down and crosses the y-axis at 2. What is it?
Number one is A.
A. Okay, so same thing for this next one. Number 2.
D.
Opens up or down?
Opens down.
Opens down because of the negative.
Opens down to the origin.
And then, right, since it's plus 0 there, that means it crosses at the origin. Okay? And so that is which one?
D.
D. Okay? Then how about number 3? What are the two things we know about that?
It's C and it
It opens up.
and it starts at 0.
Opens up and starts at 0. Hold on, what? We good?
Yeah.
Okay, and so which one opens up and starts at 0?
C.
C. Okay, Brianna? Because the place where it crosses the y-axis is the number that's being added on to the end of it.
Which is C.
Okay? This number in front of the x squared tells us how narrow or wide the parabola is going to be. Okay? But it's the number on the end that tells us where it crosses. And so for this one right here, Brianna, 3x squared minus 4, where will that cross the y-axis? At negative 4. Okay, so obviously that's the last one that's left, which is B. Okay? No. All right. Okay, so now things get a little bit more complex. Now we're trying to find the vertex of these parabolas. And I mentioned to you guys yesterday, don't know if you heard me, but this is that thing where the x-coordinate of the vertex is going to be negative b divided by 2a. Okay? So in order to start in on these, I need to first figure out what a and b and c are. So what is a? Yes.
Negative 4.
Negative 4, good. This is a tricky one. What's b? 0. Because b is the number that's in front of the x term, and since there is no x term in this equation, that means b is 0, and that leaves us c is 3. Okay, so now in order to figure out what the x-coordinate of my vertex is, I go negative b, so that would be 0 still, divided by 2 times a. What's 2 times negative 4?
2 times negative 4
Negative 8, and 0 divided by negative 8 is 0. So the x-coordinate is 0. Now to figure out the y-coordinate, what do I do with that? Plug it into the original equation. So if I take this 0 and plug it in there for x, 0 squared is 0. Negative 4 times 0 is 0. And 0 plus 3 is 3. Okay? So vertex, x equals 0, y equals 3. All right? So same deal for this one. A is what?
1.
1. B is
5.
5.
Negative 12.
And C is negative 12. Very good.
Thank you.
So x is going to be the opposite of b, or negative 5 divided by 2a,
2.
which unfortunately comes out to be
A decimal.
wah, wah. negative 2.5. So we have a little decimal in there. That's okay. We're big kids. We can handle it. Please don't do that. I shouldn't have to tell you that. You do what? Got all excited there? You started sitting up straight? You're getting it all ready in your hand, getting ready to fire? No. No. What? Hey, you got negative 14.5 for an x? How'd you do that? What do you do, just pick a number randomly, or you know what? Okay, so then I know what happened there. On your calculator, if you typed in negative 5 divided by 2, no, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, it would have come on.
Maybe
Yeah.
she would have put multiplication.
I'm not really sure. You might want to do that again. See, try it again. Yes. Then you switch it and make it positive. No, but there's not. I'm not doing anything with the c in this. It's negative b divided by 2a. So I'm going to go negative 5 divided by 2. Right. Yeah. Okay, you got it, Jillian?
600.
And
you said
way too much work than you need to.
Brian cost
Yeah,
us
Brianna, if
5.
it's negative, then it switches to plus. Okay?
She's getting
Hey,
t-shirts.
Rachel. Okay? All right, so the bad news is here now to figure out what y is, like I said, we have to figure out what you get when you put negative 2.5 in there. And that's a little bit gross for two reasons. One is because of the negative, and two is because of the decimal. Okay? Now, when you put it in there, because it is negative, make sure that you put it in parentheses because we need to square the negative also. Okay? If you put, we talked about this a lot of times, but if you go negative 2.5 squared, you're going to get negative 6.25. But what we want is a negative times a negative is positive 6.25. Okay? And you should be able to, most of your calculators are fancy enough that you should be able to just type this in exactly as I have it written right there and get the right answer. Okay? Then this is going to be negative 12.5 minus 12. So altogether, what do you get from that? Negative 18.25-ish? Negative 18.25? Okay. So that is kind of an ugly answer. But like I said, you're big kids. You can handle it. Okay? So the x-coordinate of the vertex is negative 2.5. Hey, Jacob, do not do that. Why do we have to keep having this conversation? Are you guys in 4th grade or what? Good Lord. I'm not talking to you. Jeez, Louise is right. What is Louise's problem?
Who's Louise?
I don't know who Louise is. Ask Tristan. Okay, I'm waiting a second.
That. Oh,
Okay,
Louisiana. This is Louisiana.
Hang on to that, and then I'll help you with it in a bit. Yeah. Is the y-coordinate of the vertex. Okay? So the question said, find the coordinates of the vertex, right? So the x-coordinate is negative 2.5, and the y-coordinate is negative 18.25. Okay? All right, so same thing with this one, and now our life is even more miserable because what is a?
A is 3.
Fraction, 3.5. Is there a way we can make that easier to deal with?
No.
1 1/2, which is 1.5. So let's go with 1.5 for that. B is negative 6 and C is 5. And so this is the situation that Brianna was asking about just a minute ago. When it says negative B, but B is already negative 6, that makes it what? Positive 6. It changes the sign back to positive. And then 2 times A, what's 2 times 1.5? 3. And so 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that comes out to be not so bad, even though we started with the decimal. It turned out to work out just fine. Yeah?
So, that's not good. Like, I thought you just do that part. What's the, what we have to do after that?
Just plug that into the original equation to figure out what the y-coordinate is also. That's okay. You got the first part done. The next part won't be too bad. So 3/2 times, what's 2 squared?
4.
4. Minus 6 times 2, which is
12.
12. plus 5.
5.
Okay, so 3/2 of 4 is going to be
12 over 2 is
6. Yeah, so Nate got it. 6 minus 12 plus 5, which works out to be -1.
Wait,
Okay.
where's the 4?
Where's the 4?
How'd that get there?
This 4 right here. I took this 2 and plugged it in for x, and 2 squared is 4. Okay?
I did 2 times 1.5.
Oh, no, you gotta do your exponents first. Okay? Exponents first.
So yesterday was not our day.
Okay, and then last one of these dumb ones. You like these? Okay. well,
No, they're.
good. Okay, good deal. I'm glad.
Me and Jolene were off by a lot.
Okay, A is 1/4, which is what as a decimal? 0.25.
5.
B is, nope, B is the number before the x term, so it's 8. And C is 0, right, good, okay. Okay, so my x coordinate is -8 divided by 0.5, because 0.25 doubled is 0.5, and -8 divided by 0.5 is -16. Okay? Then I'm going to plug that into therefore. Not yet, we're going to do that next. Okay, now I need to plug that in to there, and that's going to come out to be something crazy. What did you guys get?
100.
What? -64,
I was close.
-16.
This is not really crazy if it's done.
Well, what's 16 times 16? 256?
Sure.
Uh-huh. And then -16 times 8 is 128.
Jolena.
So yeah, I'm going to go with -64 on that. Okay, so what? Okay, so you're having some calculator issues. I'll come and help you with that when we're done with the whole class then. Okay? Okay?
Wait, but don't you have to?
Yes.
26 divided by 4, right?
Yeah, 256 divided by 4 is 64. And then 64 minus 128 is -64. Okay? What's that? Yep. And then we'll put this online, so if you need to go over it again, you can. Yeah. Yep. Okay, number 9. 8. Y equals 2/3 x squared. Okay, now we can do this if we wanted to. We can try and do the -b over 2a thing and find the vertex and all that. But bad things happen because there's no b and there's no c. So this one, probably the easiest thing to do is just pick some x's, plug them in, and figure out what the y's are. Okay? What's that? Okay, that's fine as long as, you know. So if I plug -2 in there, -2 squared is negative, just that part. -2 squared is 4, and then 4 times 2/3 is 2 2/3. Yeah, you were just ahead of us there. Okay. Then if I plug -1 into there, -1 squared is 1 times 2/3 is 2/3. If I plug 0 in there, what do I get? 0. Good. And then since it's a parabola, it's going to loop back around. There's a symmetry involved here. So if I plug 1 into there, then I get 2/3 again. And if I plug 2 into there, I get 2 2/3 again. Okay?
What's 2/3 of
So
a decimal?
now I need 0.6 repeating. So now I need to graph that. So -2 to the left and up 2 2/3. So I'm just going to estimate there about 2/3 of the way in between 2 and 3. Then -1 and 2/3 is right here, 0 0, and then it repeats on the other side. And then remember that you need to connect your dots with a nice smooth curve and extend the curve both ways. Some of you have a tendency to stop right at the dots, okay? The graph goes on forever in both directions. Some of you also have a tendency to make it more like a V-shaped thing. It's a nice, smooth, U-shaped graph. Okay, well, that's what you need to practice tonight then. Practice drawing parabolas. Do you need me to go back? We got it?
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Let's do the same thing, shall we? Let's go -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. If you plug -2 in there, be careful. What do you get?
4.
Okay, you get 4. No, you don't. Hold on. This says square it first, and then make your answer negative. Okay? So -2 squared is 4, but then this negative sign makes that into -4. And -4 plus 3 is -1. Okay? If I put -1 in there and square it, I get 1, right, which makes it -1 plus 3 is going to be +2. If you put 0 in there, you get 3. And then this is going to loop back around. So if I put 1 in there, I'm going to get 2 again. And if I put 2 into there, I'm going to get -1. So now I'm ready to graph this. So -2, -1 is right there. -1, 2 is there. 0, 3. And then it's symmetrical. So once again, it's a nice smooth U-shaped curve. Okay, yep, missed it by a little bit, but 2 units, close enough. No, because you have to square it first. That's very confusing. So if you square the negative, you get a positive, right? Because the negative times the negative is a positive. But then you have to take that and make it negative. Okay? So what I'm telling you is if you have -x squared, if you plug a negative number into that, you're going to end up with a negative as your final answer. Yes, because which do you do first, the negative or the squared? Okay, so if I square a negative number, do I get a positive or a negative? Positive, but then this negative in front switches it back to negative again. Okay, so that's very confusing. But that's how that works. Okay, number 11. These are the things that we've been working on most recently, so hopefully it won't be too confusing for you. What do I do with these problems to start? Set them equal to each other. So 2x squared minus 3 equals 3x minus 1. Get everything on the left. So how do I do that?
Add -3.
Minus 3x. Okay, so this 3x doesn't go with the squared and it doesn't go with the number.
2x squared minus 3x plus
Minus
-2.
Oh, you're ahead of us. Okay.
Yeah.
How do I get rid of the -1?
Add it.
Add to both sides. So 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, so I have to solve that. So there's two different ways I can do it. Quadratic formula or I can factor. Okay, now normally I would say factoring is a good way to go, but this 2 in front is going to screw things up. That's that thing where I have to go 2 times -2 and then find things that multiply together to be that, if you know what I'm saying. So let's just go quadratic formula on this. Okay, so A is 2, B is -3, and C is -2. So the opposite of B is what?
3.
3. Plus or minus the square root of B squared is
9.
9.
minus
4
4
times 2
to
times negative
2.
2, and the whole thing
4.
has to be over 4.
It's a positive now, sister. All of that's positive.
Yeah, because of this negative and this negative make it positive. Good. So 4 times 2 times 2 is 16.
16.
Like she said, that's a positive. So 9 plus 16 is 25.
25 squared is 5.
Okay, square root of 25 is 5.
Yeah, Jolena.
So 3 plus 5 makes, 3 plus 5 is
7. 8.
8. Divided by 4 is 2. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Divided by 4 is
Oh, wait, don't itch it.
negative 0.5.
Nice
Okay.
job,
Wow,
everybody.
and then she's way out ahead of the group here. Remember, those are what our x's are. We have to figure out what the y is. If I take this 2 and plug it in there, 3 times 2 is 6, minus 1 is 5, just like she said. Negative 0.5 times 3 is negative 1.5, minus 1 is negative 2.5, okay? So yes, there's a lot there in that problem. That's a great problem, okay? And that's kind of, you were asking me about how do you do that because of the number in front. Really the answer is quadratic formula is probably your best way to go. It's gross, but it works.
5 and 8.
Kristen?
Right there.
Or AC.
And if you guys stick with it enough, I don't know how many of you will, but when we get to advanced algebra, we use this formula a lot. We just program it into our calculators. And so all you have to do is just type in what A, B, and C is, and it gives you an answer. But,
I didn't do 12 and 7.
okay, well let's do those right now, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, 12 should not be too bad because it's already factored for you, right?
Right.
Hey, you guys, the little group of 4 there. So if those two things multiply together to be 0, what has to be true about one of them?
5.
Right, either x minus 5 has to equal 0 or 2x plus 1 has to equal 0. That's the only way two things can multiply together to be 0 is if one of them is 0. Well, this one's easy to solve. What does x equal there?
5.
5, because I just add 5 to both sides. This one's a little bit trickier. It takes 2 steps. What do I do first? Minus the 1. So 2x equals negative 1. Divide by 2, so x equals negative 1/2. Okay? So those are our two answers right there. So that was not so bad because it was factored already for us. Number 13 is not. Okay, so what do I have to do with this first? All right, get everything over on the left-hand side. Okay, now I'm going to be kind of weird with this.
Are you?
This is really x squared minus 10x plus what?
0.
0. Okay, so when I'm factoring this, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to be 0 and add together to be negative 10. What are those two numbers? Negative 10 and 0. Okay? So that means that x could either equal
Negative 10 or 0.
10 or 0. Okay? So that one you have to do the little factoring to start with on your home. Okay, same deal with 14. Bless you. Starting out like this, what do you have to do first to get it ready? Add the 12 to both sides. So that's going to be x squared minus 7x plus 12 equals 0. So now when I factor, I need to have two numbers that multiply together to be 12 and add together to be negative 7. What would those be? Negative 3 and negative 4, yeah.
3 and 4.
So that means x could equal
3 and 4.
3 or 4. Okay? All right, so those are not too bad. Now we get to number 15, and again, this is a gross one, because what's different about this problem?
No.
Yeah, it might come out to be a decimal, but what's your clue that that's going to be the case?
Just one. Just one.
How do you know what's different about this that makes it a difficult problem?
Because it has a big number.
It's got this 6 in front of the x squared.
Oh,
So
it's
I
not
can't
gonna be-
just factor it by going x and x and two numbers that multiply together to be negative 30 and add to be negative 8. So where I really need to go with this then is the quadratic formula. Okay? There is a way to factor it, but it's pretty complicated. So this is probably the easiest way to go. Okay? So opposite of b is what? 8. It was negative 8, so it switches to be positive 8. Plus or minus the square root of
64.
64 minus 4 times
Negative, or 6 times
6 times
negative 30.
negative 30.
I don't want to do that.
And
Positive.
that's all over 2 times a, which is 12. And then like Jolena said when we were doing the other problem, since this is negative and this is negative, those are going to cancel out and make it positive. Okay? So somebody tell me what 64 is, what is it? 784 for the whole thing? For just this part or the whole thing? Okay, so that works out to be 784, and hopefully that has an easy square root. What's the square root of 784? Negative, well, 28, right?
Oh, no, yeah, I just wrote that wrong.
Okay, so the square root of 784 is 28. Okay, so it's going to work out, right?
Never remember. Do you, when you multiply the A and C and 4, do you have negative 4 too?
Yeah.
Or just positive?
This is always a minus 4 right here. Okay,
You always
Nolan?
do negative 4 times.
Yeah, yeah.
Does it work out the same way if we pulled out 2?
Yes. Okay, so now I need to go 8 plus 28, which is 36. And then I have to go 8 minus 28, which is negative 20. And if I reduce those fractions, what is 36 over 12 reduced to? 3. And then negative 20 over 12 reduces to what?
Negative 10 over 3.
What did you go with? Negative 1.6 repeating? Okay, that works. Or you could do that as a fraction, negative 1 and 2/3. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to do number 16, but I want to do number 17. Do we have to?
No.
Okay, we will. We will. It's all right. We will. That one might come out to be decimal, so that might be a good one to look at. Okay, so yeah.
So the last one was
Is that what?
X and Y.
Oh, great question. Are those X or Y? Those are both X's. Okay. This problem does not have a Y in it.
You plug in
So
the
we
X.
don't need to plug it back in to find out what it is. Here's your $1 million question that if you answer this correctly, it shows that you understand what we're doing. Okay? If I took 3 and plugged it in here for X, what would I get?
0.
Nice.
0.
Okay? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out is what values of X can I plug in here to make this equal 0. Okay? So if I plug 3 into there, I would get 0. And if I plug negative 1.6 repeating, I would also get 0. Okay? Nice job. All right. So x squared minus 81, we can factor this. This has a fancy name. Anybody remember it?
So,
Difference of 2
2
squares. Okay? It's going to be x and x. And then I need two numbers that multiply together to be negative 81 and add to be positive. I mean, add to be 0, negative 9, and positive 9. So my two answers are negative 9 and positive 9. And again, Brianna, those are both x's. There's no y's in this problem. Good question, though. All right, 17. This looks like the worst one of all, but we're ready. We're fired up. Fired up.
I know, I was going to say that.
Okay, stay with me. Because I have this number in front, I'm going to go quadratic formula. Now you could do the quadratic formula on any one of these problems if you wanted to. Okay? But I think it's easier to factor. You might disagree though. Okay, so opposite of B is?
-5.
-5. Plus or minus the square root of b squared.
25.
25.
-4 times 2 times -63.
Okay.
Divided by 4.
All over 4. Okay. So 25 minus 4 times 2 times -63 comes out to be what?
I'm not doing it.
509. Thank you. Okay. And as predicted, this is kind of an icky one because the square root of 509 is not a whole number. Okay. 22.56. All right. So this is going to be 5 plus or minus 22.56 divided by 4. So we have to do two different things. 5 plus that is 27.56, still divided by 4. 5 minus that is -17.56, still divided by 4. And then if you divide those two by 4, your final answer is 6.89 and -4.3. Help me. 4? 39. Okay. What? Oh yeah, huh?
Yeah, you messed that up. It's supposed to
Dang
be
it.
-27 and then positive 2.
Okay.
So it's -6 and then +4.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. All right. Last three should have been pretty easy. Number 18 is quadratic because the dots are going down and then they come back up. Now some of you panicked and said,
Quadratic, neither.
hold on. Shh, 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 shh. Some of you panicked and said, but there's no dot over here that matches this dot, so it's
Imagine
not
it.
quadratic. Right, they just didn't show us that one. You can put those in there if you want, and then you get a nice U-shaped graph, so that is quadratic. Okay? Number 19, the dots are going up. Right, and they do not come back down, so that one is neither. If you're curious, that's an example of what's called an exponential function. Okay, okay, good, but neither is fine. And then 20, since the dots are all in a nice straight line, that is
So if I'm not zooming, I don't know.
okay.